right. Hey, everyone. Happy Monday, Nolan. Hope your weekend was good. We're going to kick off with another Dear Heretics inspired by the Dear Abby newspaper columns. Just a quick plug to keep these coming. We have, I think, a backlog of 9 now, Nolan. And we love them. We're getting great feedback. The spicier, the odder, the better. So keep those coming to us. Thank you very much. So here's one, Nolan, for today. Hey, both. I'm writing a Dear Heretics email message that has been long overdue. I've had issues with some of the decisions our founders make, primarily the CEO, and have been put in positions where the company is no longer operating the gray, but has crossed the line. And I'm assuming that line, Nolan, is an ethical one or a moral one or a values-based line.
Yeah.
Today, our COO asked me to think about my alignment with the company and said, I need people around us to shape the future and not scold us for the past. This listener says, I know startups can be hard and that founders like to play fast and loose, but when issues come up monthly that go against my morals, I'm now wondering if this is the right decision for me. In your experience, is this just startup life or have I found myself in the wrong leadership team? Thanks for everything you do. This has been incredible. I look forward to your show every week.
All right. This one's tough, Kelly, because I have been this person. And so let me just reflect back on my own self first, and then, we could talk about advice next. Okay. So for me, when I look back and I was in this mode, the thing that I regret is that I lacked perspective. And I felt like that everything was happening at that moment of my life was like the biggest thing going on. And it turned out that it wasn't that big of a deal. Like with years now of perspective, I can look back and say like, oh, like that was more startup stuff. Like that was just like kind of like bending the rules on some things. And like, oh, that was like natural course of business for like how disagreements happen. And now as I reflect back and I think about if I were to do it again, my general rule of thumb first is the Bezos quote, which you and I use on the show all the time, which is, will you gamble with me? And so I think that's the first thing is like, when you're thinking about these people, are these people you want to gamble with? And if the answer is no, then you should leave. Because what's happening with this conversation with your COO is it's clear that they've identified you as somebody who's not rowing in the same direction. And so you have two choices now. You start rowing in the same direction and you start gambling with this team, or you leave. And this third choice of like kind of like being in the middle, like, oh, I don't know, on some things and other things, like it's just, especially if you're in leadership roles in startup, Kelly, like you and I both know this, like you're all in or you're all out. Because like it's okay to disagree during debate meetings, right, before we've made a decision. But once a decision is made, you're in. And it doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. You must be all in, because especially in the people role, right, Kelly, like we have to live these things. We have to give the bet its due to ensure that we're giving it the opportunity to succeed. And it turns out, last thing is like, it turns out I was wrong all the time on my ideas. Like my founder was actually right the majority of the time. And so can you suspend disbelief? Like, can you believe that like your idea might not work, and can you take the other side? And I think that's the ultimate sign of maturity. Yeah.
And I don't think you're condoning like doing immoral and illegal things. Like that's not the message here.
No.
And it's not mine either. So let's just put that aside. Let's kind of take this question and take out the fact that they're apparently doing shady things that cross moral lines. Okay. Independent of that, you are completely correct. And for those of you who are in leadership roles, especially in the people role, but any role in the startup world, you have to decide what you can control, what you can't, what you can live with, and what you can't. Yeah. The worst thing you can do is stay in a job when you don't agree and when you can't live with it. Like I've seen this happen. And for those of you who have been on my leadership teams, you know that I've like hit people over the head with a brick multiple times. Because what starts to happen is you start to exude that in other ways. You don't think you are, but you're talking shit with people, you're going home talking to your family, you're spending more energy talking about how you disagree fundamentally with whatever it is than you are doing good work. That comes out in tone, that comes out in body language, that comes out in how you interact with these people. And we said relationship is the most important thing. So once you start like thinking a certain way and acting a different way or trying to hide it, you're just kind of fucked. So I always tell them, like, look, you have to decide what you can tolerate and what you can change and influence, and what you can't, you're going to have to decide to live with it or leave, because at the end of the day, it's the founder's company. You can go create your own company. But I think that's the thing that I've really learned, Nolan, is at the end of the day, whether it's right or wrong, crazy or not, like I think not that some of these founders are morons I've worked with, but it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You have to make a decision and live with it or not, because it will just come out in different ways.
What you're describing is somebody who has turned toxic without knowing they're toxic. And it happens all the time. Like we all know this person in our lives who is like constantly bitching about something, but not realizing they're bitching about it all the time. And to your point, it's not just verbal. There's so many nonverbal cues that humans pick up on that we're literally like in our DNA coded to pick up on. That's how we made sure we stayed safe and people didn't murder us back in the day.
Jeez. Yes. So yes, now we're going to just take that murderous environment into the startup world. But
I mean, that's what it is. Like, this is like just calling humanity what it is.
Yeah. But especially for founders and like, it's different if you're right at, I refuse to say Meta, but Facebook, and you're, one of a million, and you're like, but in this intimate environment, and you're a founder, Nolan, you are a founder, you just know. You know what I mean? And to your point,
it's so obvious. And
it's so obvious.
And honestly, like when it happens, now that I've been one and I have the empathy, I'm just like, we got to get this person the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And it's obvious in terms of usually non-overt things. Like you just kind of start being more aloof, right? You're not engaging with that leader as much anymore. Those things have impacts. And you want to get in front of that before it's too late. Because the taboo nature of like, stay as long as you can and go through the toxicity, it doesn't have to be like that anymore. We've said many times on this show that most of the reasons why leadership roles don't work out at early stage companies is not because of someone's technical or functional skills.
Yep.
Hopefully, but usually it's because of a difference in style, philosophy, values, vision, whatever that is. And that's okay to say. I mean, it's becoming easier and more cordial now to be like, listen, I think it's the right thing if I cordially exit out. I'm happy to stay and help you recruit, or I'm happy to go. I'm happy to overlap. I'm happy to, do what's best. That is actually becoming more of the norm. It doesn't have to be this big secret, you're fired, get out.
Yeah, we can be adults.
Hey, everyone. We'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. Your workforce is your organization's greatest strength and often its largest single expense. But without the right tools, understanding where your workforce spend is going or how it impacts your bottom line can be a challenge. That's where Planful comes in. With Planful, HR and finance teams get the clarity they need to make smarter workforce decisions, gain real-time visibility into workforce fluctuations, forecast with confidence, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. No more guesswork, just data-driven insights to help you plan with accuracy. And the best part, Planful is fast and easy to implement, so you can be up and running in weeks, not months, with minimal IT support. Plus, as your company grows, Planful grows with you, providing endless runway for strategic workforce planning at any scale. Ready to take your workforce planning to the next level? Join over 1,500 organizations already using Planful. Visit planful.com/heretics to learn more.
I must admit, I used to believe that AI didn't actually exist in recruiting or HR. That is until my friend Heather Doche, who leads talent at Signalfire, told me to check out Metaview. I got into the product and was like, wow, AI actually does exist in recruiting, and this product is sick. Metaview is the world's #1 AI scribe built specifically for recruiting. Their AI records and transcribes hiring conversations, like intakes, interviews, and debriefs, then provides perfectly summarized notes of everything that was discussed. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes everything. With perfect notes from every conversation, your people can focus on creating a human connection with candidates, and they can save time on the busy work of cleaning up notes after every interview. But it's so much more than just a time saver, because perfect notes means perfect data. For every candidate and every pipeline, hiring teams can make confident, informed decisions, and talent leaders can finally take control of the interview process. Metaview covers all your compliance needs, works with all your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at organizations like Brex, Deal, HelloFresh, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts. Tell them that me and Kelly sent you. Or you could just go to their website and get started for free. You'll be up, running, and AI-enabled in minutes.
Yeah. So this person asked kind of 2 questions in my mind, Nolan. One is this kind of startup life? And I think it is. This is early stage. This is early stage company life. And that's kind of the nuance of that. Now, the moral stuff is a different level of this.
I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, so I grew up at DoorDash, and, our biggest competitor was Uber. And what people need to understand about that era is every ride sharing and food delivery company was not just operating in the gray, like we were breaking rules, but we were doing it from a perspective of these rules don't make sense. Like, these rules are rules because they were created in some archaic time before, like, the iPhone came out, right? Or it wasn't from like a we're trying to harm people perspective. Right. It was, in fact, the opposite. And here, Uber's the best example of this, because like the ride sharing laws, like at that time, was like you had to have a taxi medallion.
Yeah.
And the taxi companies now would tell you, like, they effed us, like they screwed us real bad. And I think there's a case to be had there. But on the other side, it's like, well, when I get to the airport now and I'm not in a taxi zone and I wasn't in one before, like, now I can get to one because I just use my phone to get somebody to pick me up and I'm on time and I make my flight and I don't have to spend $150 on a black car service. So I think like a lot of this stuff ends up falling into that zone. I don't think it's like, oh, like we are like, undercover operating, like breaking a law that is a law for a good reason. I think it's more of this, like, let's bend this because we need to bend the world to this new reality because it hasn't caught up to where modern society is.
Yep. I agree. I think that, and I describe myself like this, like it's an entrepreneurial bent. It's a, lean first towards doing, growing, achieving, being creative. It does not lean first towards process and rules. And I would say that is a common theme across early stage companies, because it's a common theme across founders and these people. Like, that's just how they are. So if you're going to be a people leader in these companies, I do think your element is bend rules first, versus follow everything. To a point, we're all adults. I mean, I think we know what's right and what's wrong and when that line has been crossed. And if you really think that a line has been crossed, is inappropriate or illegal in a sense that is not right, like do not do that. Like that, do not do it. But I'm talking about the larger aspect of this, everyone, is that, you're not going to be successful in these organizations with these types of people, especially at the highest levels and the most successful breakthrough companies, unless your mindset is this. That's the hard truth.
Yeah. So I'll give an example of like, actually this happening in my household. So last summer, my 5-year-old at the time, I'm like trying to teach him like business and stuff. And I was like, hey, like, let's go sell popsicles. Because we stayed at Huntington Beach. We're like right on the beach for a few weeks. And anyways, this dude's slinging popsicles, and so like we called it Kevsicles. Like we had this whole thing. We're like taking Venmo and shit. And so my wife and I were talking about it because we're going back next year, and we were talking about it. And she's like, "Oh, like, do we need to incorporate him?" And I'm like, "No, like, we don't need to fucking incorporate a 6-year-old now. Like,
these are cash deals. We don't. What are you talking about?"
But the point is like, I know it does sound trite, and I'm not meaning it to be that way. But like in these startups, you're typically always bending something. Like something's being bent. It's normal. And so I would just encourage you to not be like me, like I was 10 years ago, feeling like we were breaking all these fucking rules. And instead to take a step back and say like, well, how were these great companies built? Like, what about Airbnb? Like, you think it was legal? Like, it wasn't. But now we have like, now we're looking at it as like, oh, like this is normal now. And so if you could just imagine yourself 10 years in the future, and more specifically, imagine what can go right, and having this like optimistic outlook, your founder is going to be a lot happier hanging out with you.
Yeah. And then, right, if that all works out and it was all on the up and up and you're kind of bending in the right way and you're successful, right, your brand becomes, every great founder's like, you got to work with Nolan because he's going to help accelerate you. He's a great partner. He'll push back. However, he'll also gamble with you and he'll bend with you. And that's how the brand works. It's happened to me. It's how it happens.
Such a good point. It's such a good point, Kelly. Like, I think about this with lawyers all the time.
Yeah. If you're a G&A leader that a founder wants to work with you and not around you, it's gold.
There's a lawyer, his name's Michael Brown at Fenwick. And I'll give him his flowers because he's so good at this. I'll say something fucking insane, right? And Michael will say, Nolan, I think what you meant to say is this. And it's like a way better and less crude way of getting to the exact same outcome that I wanted. Because that's the other thing, right? Kelly, is like, you know, a lot of times founders are talking about outcomes and they're hiring you to help them get to the outcome. And so like the bridge from where we are to the outcome is very much under construction every day.
Yeah, you can't assume that just because they talk insane sometimes, well, like crude, great example, you're still working on it. But I always say, like, don't assume they mean what they say. Start with where they're at and then work backwards with them. And it's usually an okay journey. By the way, you're lucky about your kid and those popsicles. I tried to sit down with my boys and explain to them how the rental property business works. You know, the whole thing, because I love it. And they're like, Mama, we're only 13. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, okay. So last thing for our audience on this one, because I'm passionate about this topic, which is if you are that person who walks by a child and doesn't like at least engage with, there's like so many people who like, it's fine to reject because rejection is part of humanity. Like say, I'm not interested. But if you're that person who's like literally like, I'm scared to like look in the direction because I'm so in fear of saying no to somebody, there's a special place in hell for you.
Yeah.
Like these people suck. And I can't believe 30 to 40% of our society falls into this bucket.
No,
so don't be that person if you listen to the show.
Yeah. If my kids were here, they would say, 2 rules they were growing up. Don't kill animals ever. And do not ever walk by a lemonade stand without buying something from these kids.
Amen, sister.
All right. I love the question. It's a good one. And it's not easy. It is a very opaque, gray journey. So keep them coming. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, homies.
HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.